Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural edition of the Let It Out podcast. My name is Brian.
And I'm Kayla.
And today, well, since this is the first episode, it's actually not the first episode, it's going to be the pilot episode. I think the most important thing of a podcast is knowing who's on the podcast. So we're going to give you a quick little rundown of ourselves, who we are, our relationship together, and how we met, because I think it's an interesting story. Do you wanna? I feel like mine is way less eventful than yours.
Your life?
Yeah, so you should probably tell them about you and how you grew up and.
Well, you should. If you go first, it'll take less time, and we can get to.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. My name is Brian. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and did not leave the state of Arizona up until about last year. And the reason I left was for this little girl sitting next to me.
Don't say little girl. People are going to think you're a pedo.
Oh, people on Twitter already think that anyways.
Oh.
They also think we're incestual.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
I grew up in Arizona, 2 parents, not married, also not divorced. 3 sisters, a shit ton of cousins.
A shit ton of dogs.
A shit ton of dogs. Well, not always a shit ton of dogs.
Most, you have a lot of dogs right now.
Yeah, just right now. Shut up. That's not part of what's going on right now.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm just kidding. Grew up fairly standard, upper middle class up until about 2007 when the economy crashed and my dad got laid off. Then definitely lower middle class. Mostly, a fairly standard living experience, except for the fact that I do not have a high school education. I am a fairly dumb individual. And I guess that pretty much covers my background, but as far as me as a person, I'm a big nerd. I like all things nerdy. I like most types of rock music. I like reading, and I aspire to be a writer, and I enjoy writing and reading books, comic books, novels, just anything. Fucking articles online that piss me off. I also enjoy shit posting on Twitter and arguing with people. I am a connoisseur of things that nobody gives a shit about. Oh, and video games. Video games are pretty cool, too. I think that pretty much sums me up as a person. I mean, I'm an atheist, as is my co-host. We both believe in the fact that belief isn't an important thing and knowing is far more important. And yeah, I'd say that pretty much sums me up. I think it's your turn. You go ahead and spiel to the people about your horrible life.
My name is Kayla, as I said in the beginning. I'm from Illinois. I was actually born in the hometown of Ronald Reagan, which is Dixon, Illinois. But I didn't grow up there. I mostly grew up in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
And Dixon isn't?
Well, Dixon at least has stuff to do. It's got a Walmart.
Yeah.
The town I grew up in doesn't have a Walmart. No,
Oh my god, the arbiter of what makes and doesn't make a town. Walmart.
You know it. Yeah, no, the county that I lived in when I was a kid was so small.
How small was it?
That we only had, there's only one stoplight in the whole county. That's how small it is. But yeah, and then I grew up on a farm, an empty farm. We had cows when I was little, and there's pigs, but, my dad, who was the farmer, kind of stopped doing that, because he got a real job. Not that I'm saying farmers aren't real jobs, but
Before the farmers start fucking tweeting us.
Yeah. But yeah, and then, so, when I was 8, my parents, separated. They weren't divorced for several years later, because their divorce took forever, but my dad left my mom for some woman who was way younger than him, and she was not very nice.
He also cheated on your mom with that woman. Don't forget that part.
Yeah, he did.
Your dad's a cheater.
I don't know. That's not important to my life story. I think
it's important to the divorce story. I think.
Yeah. Well. But yeah, and so I was kind of mistreated by my stepmother. Not that I want to make this like a sob story. I didn't have the greatest childhood.
Just give an example of how she mistreated you. Just give one.
Oh, there's a million, and there's so many. It's hard to think.
I like the her calling your mom a horror story. That's a good one.
Oh yeah, no. So this is Brian brings up a story. So here's a story about how terrible my stepmother was. So when I was 13 years old, by this point in time, I was so over their bullshit that I actively avoid seeing my dad. Even I stopped going over to his house on the weekends, and I forced myself to go see him on Wednesdays because I don't know. I didn't want to, but I was made to. And this particular story happened in the winter. I was 13 years old. I was in 8th grade. And I have a stepbrother, and we were going to go over to the farmhouse where I grew up, and we're going to go ride the four-wheelers in the snow, which I had never done. And the only problem was I didn't have snow pants, and I didn't bring snow pants, and so, my dad leaves and goes downstairs and to get me some snow pants, and I'm in the other room getting ready. And so she was in the other room, and she was talking to my stepsister's now husband about how terrible of a mother my mom was because my dad pays her all this money in child support, and she couldn't even buy me a pair of snow pants. And I started crying because I was like, oh my god. And so, my sorry, my mom just walked by. And so this devolved into some huge argument, and basically at one point my mom my stepmom goes, your mom thinks I'm a whore, Kayla. I'm not a whore. I bet your mom slept with more men than I have. She said that to me. I was 13 years old. She said that to me. And at that point, I was done. I just kind of, I ranted on Facebook, and someone went and told her about it and whined to her about how I was talking bad about her on Facebook and whatever else. So I had to block everybody associated with her on Facebook, and it was a great time. And so basically after that point, I just refused to go and go over to my dad's house ever again, pretty much. I only ever went over back to his house a couple times after that because I was just like, no, you can't talk to me like that. So that was a really long tangent.
No, it's fine. And just, for the record, what happened to your wicked stepmother?
Oh yeah, they're divorced now. My dad and my stepmom.
He's got a good track record, your dad.
Yeah. After my parents got divorced, I moved to a different school because the first school I went to, I was pretty badly bullied. Like, I only had my one friend who was the year ahead of me, and basically everybody tried to take her away from me too, and it didn't work, but everyone tried, and I was really miserable. So we moved to a different town so I could go to a different school, and it wasn't great the first few years at this new school, but eventually I did kind of find my way, and I found some friends. I don't know, I did pretty good in high school.
Honor roll.
Yeah, I was on the honor roll all the time. I made it into National Honor Society. I was 6th in my class. Now here comes the bragging part of my life. I did so good in high school.
Well, you should go ahead and brag. It's not like I have anything to fucking brag about, so you should.
I did so good in high school.
My accomplishments in life involve, people I like fucking talking to me on Twitter, and that's about the extent of it.
Yeah, and I was in band, I was in drama, I did academic team. So, I mean, you can probably guess kind of the person I am based off my extracurricular activities. Now, I go to school up in Minnesota. I'm not going to say the name of the college, but it's in Minnesota, where I'm studying to become a paralegal. That's what I do with my life. Right now I'm on break, and I work at McDonald's, which... that could be some...
that could be plenty of ranting material in and of itself.
I mean, I'm not really going to complain about McDonald's because I'm not dumb.
It's like kicking a dead horse.
But, I've got lots of interesting McDonald's stories. I worked at the McDonald's in the town where I go to school, too. So I've worked at 2 separate McDonald's, so I've got lots of interesting McDonald's stories for you. I'm sure those will come out eventually.
And the stories are less to do with McDonald's, the corporation itself,
as the customers,
and more to do with the customers, the people that establishment attracts.
Yeah.
I'll take it from here.
Okay.
And well, I mean, I kind of gave a little... I do not have a high school education. At 16, I dropped out of school because that is the legal age in which you can drop out of school. I fucking hated school. Like Kayla, I was bullied for a large portion of my life. Meant to leave a school because the administration basically would do nothing about my bullying. I tell a story often to people outside of the American school system, as an example of how bad it is. I mean, it's not an example of the American school system as itself, and more an example of Roosevelt School District number 66 that I grew up in, which is the worst school district you could ever send your kids. If you're in Arizona, do not send your kids to that school district. Slander, I know. It's not slander if it's true. But yes, I was being bullied by quite a few students. They made fun of the way I talked because I had a bit of a speech impediment, like into my early teens, I would say. My R's were W's, and that was just hilarious to some people. And I was a very shy kid because of this, and instead of going to the principal or vice principal directly and, airing my claims in person, I decided to write up a formal complaint, as was advised by my teacher at the time. So I wrote up a complaint. I wrote the students' names down. I wrote what their offenses were, and handed it to the vice principal and told him what it was. I told him it was a complaint about bullying and some of the students in our school. And I went to walk out of the office, and the office had like a wall that was nothing but windows facing the outside of the school. And as I walked out, I turned around and literally saw the vice principal glance at the paper, and then just crumple it up and throw it in the trash. So I said, fuck that school, fuck school in general, if this is the attitude of people running the school. And yeah, so I dropped out of school when I was 16, and this is the time I consider the lost years. It is a very dark time in my life, a time of depression and just suicidal thoughts and just horrible feelings. I felt worthless. Most of it was placed upon me by myself, but some of it was encouraged by family members like my father, who continuously told me, I had no worth, and unless I was willing to go out and work and pay his bills for him, I was just a piece of shit and didn't have any worth and didn't deserve life, really. So that's how I felt. I felt as though I didn't deserve life. I attempted suicide when I was 17. Yeah, I was about 17. I owned a gun, which may be surprising to some of you, but if you came from Arizona. It's probably not that surprising. Gun culture is very different there. But yes, I didn't own it legally, but it was purchased for me. And I had a gun, I had a bottle of whiskey, and I drank myself until I was brave enough to pull the trigger. But, fortunately or unfortunately, I wasn't brave enough. I had the gun to my head, I had the gun loaded, but I didn't pull the trigger. And that was the closest I've ever come to a suicide attempt. And to tie it all together, the reason I did not pull the trigger is, I've dabbled with suicidal thoughts a lot of my life, and usually what I do to bring myself back from the edge is I sit there and I list all the things I'm thankful for. You're supposed to do that shit on Thanksgiving, but I like to do it before I kill myself. So I would just go through things to live for, which is a good practice for anyone who has suicidal thoughts or tendencies. It's a good way to give yourself perspective. And on this particular occasion, on this particular attempt, basically nothing was coming to my mind. I was drawing a blank as far as what to live for, and the only thing that came to my mind was, I had an online friend who I talked to quite a lot.
When you were 17?
When I was 17?
Are you sure? I don't want to...
No, yeah, yes, I am. Yes, I told you, we started talking when I was 16. When I was 16. We started talking before I dropped out of school.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm 150% positive. You're the one that keeps forgetting the exact chain of events. I remember. I have a good memory despite my, constant smoking of the marijuanas. I have a pretty good long-term memory. I have a pretty shit short-term memory, but my long-term memory is alright. Anyways, before I was so rudely interrupted, I had an online friend, and that online friend is sitting next to me, and she is my girlfriend of almost 2 years now. We've been talking, like I said, since I was about 16, talking somewhat seriously since about 19. Considered ourselves in a relationship, even though we had never met when I was 19. And we met online. We met on
Don't say the name.
I'm not going to say the name. We met on a forum, a fandom-based forum, as far as I'll go there. We're not in very good standings on this forum, so we don't want to drudge up old drama or anything. But yeah, we met on a forum, and I was truthful about who I was, but someone wasn't. And this is where the meeting story gets interesting.
This is where I jump in and tell this long, complicated story that starts way, way back the summer when I was 14. It was, I believe it was before I went into my sophomore year of high school. So this starts on a totally different forum. I started on this one forum because I'm like a writer and a creative type, I decided to pretend to be one of the characters that I had created. And so I went on this site and pretended to be this person that I wasn't. And I did this for a while. I got banned from that forum fairly shortly because someone was like impersonating me and making fun of me, and so I kind of threatened them and they banned me. And so I went to like this arch rival forum that everybody on this first forum bitched about this about the second forum I was on, but yet they were all on it too. It's like they're always like, oh, this forum such shit, everyone there is. And so I went there. I continued to be this other person, and then someone Googled, because I had written with this character's name, someone Googled the character name, found out it wasn't real. Adult shit bricks. They were so mad, they were so butthurt, they're like, Rah! They compared me to Jesse Slaughter, if you know who that is.
I don't.
They said They said I was worse than Jessie Slaughter. And I don't know why I'm worse than her, because it's not like I was never threatening anybody. Mostly I was just,
talking to people.
I was just talking to people, and I would joke. I was never like, besides that one time I threatened that guy in that first forum, I never was like threatening people, even though I was constantly being bullied. And so that ended that saga of that character, and I was banned from that forum. And that forum has now imploded and is basically nobody goes on there anymore.
Yeah.
And it imploded shortly after I left, so I'm proud to say that I probably took down that whole forum.
You know what? I would say you honestly probably did, because I stayed on after the blow up, and that was honestly when it started going downhill. It's like,
no, I'm not talking about the one that we met on. I'm talking about a different one.
Oh well, the other one has as well.
Yeah, I know. I have destroyed 2 forums.
It not only
in my
imploded,
life.
it's fucking dead. Like dead as disco.
Yeah. So I kind of liked pretending to be someone I wasn't on the internet.
Catfish.
Yes, I'm a catfish.
No, you're not. Because, when I think of, this is why, someone told us, someone tried to tell me you were that. And, when I think of a definition of a catfish, I think of someone who's scamming. Someone who is, A, lying about who they are, and is, B, using that to make some kind of personal gain, trying to get money sent to them, or trying to lure people into a trap and murder them. And I came and met the person who was pretending to be someone else, and she did not murder me.
Yeah, no, I never tried to like get people to give me money or anything like that, or whatever. So I started again on this first forum that I talked about that I was banned from, as this new character, who I called Elliot. I think which is strange, because the name that I chose for that forum was Xerxes, and I never used it anywhere else. And so around this time, I was really into the fandom that this forum was about, and so I decided to make an account there as this Elliot character that I had made. And I don't want to go into like the exact transitions of Elliot and how the character developed as I went on, because it kind of wasn't, because I was so young. It was a little insensitive, and
I still don't think it was.
I don't want people like the lynch mob coming after me and being like, "Ow, wow."
If we're gonna start espousing our opinions on this podcast, the SJW lynch mob is gonna come after us anyways. They are. There's just quick tangent. There's a reason this podcast is called the Let It Out podcast, because just about every episode we're gonna come on and we're gonna tell you opinions maybe you're not hearing from other people. We're gonna tell you our opinions first of all, so of course you're not hearing them from other people. But we're going to tell you, we're just like the name says, we're just gonna let it all out. We're gonna put our opinions out there, and you can agree with them or disagree with them. You can feel free to tweet us. You can feel free to tweet me. My personal Twitter account is at HalfBloodBrian. I will be creating a separate Twitter account for this podcast eventually, where you can air your complaints or argue with me if you want. But you're not gonna find Kayla, I don't think, unless she wants you to find her. That's up to her. But it is of my opinion that I do not want my girlfriend harassed on the internet any more so than she has been in the past and probably will be in the future. So.
Well, anyways, so I had a big falling out with this forum, and I stopped going on there, but I would still talk to Brian. Mm-hmm. And so Brian, we were talking, and we'd been talking for a while, and eventually Brian just was like, okay, I'm gonna tell you like one of my most closely guarded secrets ever. And he told me, and then I was like, damn, he trusted me so much to trust me with his darkest secret, and here I am. He doesn't really know anything about the person I really am, and so I told him the truth, and I kind of expected that it would ruin our friendship, that he'd be so mad that he would never want to talk to me again. And so there's a few days from when I sent him the message telling him the truth, and from when he responded, and I was just agonizing. I'm like, oh, he read it. He's so mad. He's just never going to respond. He's so mad. And he wasn't mad. And so this was at the very end of my senior year of high school that this happened. And so we continue to talk as who we are now into the summer. We talked over Twitter mostly, and then
eventually we started having actual IRL phone conversations.
Yeah, but that was after we started considering ourselves together.
That's right.
And so yeah, we eventually we did meet. It was about a year ago. A little more than a year ago.
It was on my 20th birthday.
Yeah, and so
we didn't just meet. Just come on, give him.
No.
Give him the nitty gritty.
Brian.
No, it wasn't just a meeting. It was, the starting of a relationship. A sexual one.
Oh.
There, I said it. Yeah, well, fuck. If you won't say it, I'll say it. We were both, one of us by choice, one of us not by choice, virgins before we met each other.
Thank you, Brian.
No, it's fine. Hey, you have nothing to be ashamed about. You said you wanted to graduate high school with your virginity intact. You made an effort to keep your virginity. I made an effort to try and lose it constantly and still didn't. So if anyone has anything to be ashamed about, it's me.
So yeah, there you go. Brian just told the whole world about, you know.
Our sexual relationship.
That's nice. I wanted the whole world to know.
Well, who's the whole world, first of all? We're assuming nobody's going to listen. Second of all, if they do listen, they probably don't care. And third of all, people have sex. Get over it.
But yeah, that's...
Yeah, I think
that kind of sums up the meeting.
It definitely does. It sums up our relationship, or it sums up us and our relationship nicely. I feel like you probably know a little bit more about us, and will continue to know about us as this podcast continues and develops and becomes whatever it will become. So yeah, that's us. This is our podcast. We hope you maybe enjoyed. It was kind of, pilot episodes are usually not very indicative of what the shows themselves are going to be. But this was just kind of an introduction to us and how we met, how we got together. As far as our plans for the future, we plan to get married. We plan to have kids. I grew up thinking, probably because of my parents and my mother's hatred for marriage, that I would never get married. And I, on my own, decided about around the age of 14 that I didn't want kids. I didn't want to add to the population problem. I hated myself. I still basically do. I didn't feel I was mentally qualified to make another person and shape who that person was. I thought it would be selfish for me to impose my own horrible depression onto another, but Kayla changed all that. She changed my ideas about relationship. She changed my ideas about life, and she saved my life. I tell her that often, and it's not an understatement. I would be dead right now if not for this girl sitting beside me. I love you, baby.
I love you too.
Kiss. I think that'll do it for this pilot episode. For the Let It Out podcast, I'm Brian.
I'm Kayla.
And we don't have a sign-off yet.